tutorial, C++ programming, tutorial number 10. So what is C++ functions? So what is C++ functions? So a function is a block of code that performs a specific task. A function is a block of organized, usable code that used to perform a single related actions. So functions provide better modularity for any of your applications and a high degree of code reusing. So you can use functions in creating or reusing codes so that your code will not be redundant or a big chunk of code. So that's why you will use functions in C programming or any programming languages. So functions are very helpful if you are in creating functions, which is a creating program which is you can have too many lines of code. So an example why we use functions is, for example, we need to create a program which you will create a circle, and the circle will have a color. So you can create two functions to that. So to solve that problem, so you will create a function that will draw a circle and a function which can color the circle. So another example of a function is a function that tells the robot to walk or to punch or to trigger. In your video games, when you click the trigger button, so the gun will fire. So that is an example of a function. So there are two types of function. So a function or a library function, which is a predefined standard library function, which is a predefined in C++, and a user-defined function created by the user. So number one, standard library function is example of that is your IOStream, your cout and cin, which is a predefined function in C++ on IOStream. That's why you will include the code #include IOStream to use the function cout and cin. Another programming language in C, so you will use printf and scanf. So you will use a predefined function, or you will invoke a predefined function that is called #include stdio.h. Then the number two is user defined function, which is created by the user. Example of that is an example of greet. Example of, you will create a function that can help the robot walk. So C++ user-defined function is a user-defined function or a group of code to perform a specific task, and that group of code is given a name or an identifier. So your function is you can call or you can name your functions anything you want or anywhere you want. So you can create a colloquy function. So it should have a identifier. So when a function is invoked, so another term of invoking function is calling function from any part of the program. So it all executes the code defined in the body of the function. So a very common function that you are using is the main function. So remember, you have int main and a void main. So void main, which is defined as a void function which has no return value or no parameter. In an int main function, so you can notice that you have a return 0. So you have to return a value of that function. So a user-defined function is very similar to a main function, but in programming, the main function is a function that the program is starting. So without a main function, so you cannot start your program. So C++ function declaration. So we have here a return type function. Return type. You have the return type, the function name, parameter 1, and you have a parameter 2. So then you have the function body. So return type, you have void, int, float, string. Then the function name, so any name you want, so you can create that function, you can name that function. Then you have a parameter. So parameter, you have parameter 1 and parameter 2. So if you have to expect 2 values, so you have to declare a variable or a parameter. You have to declare 2 parameters. So if you have to expect a 1 value, so just declare a 1 parameter. So inside that function is your function body, so which you will code your instructions of your program. So here is an example of function declaration. So here we created a void greet. So you have noticed that you have a void, which means you have no return value. Then you have named your function greet and you have no parameters. So it could be no parameters or you have a parameter. So in this function, you will display hello world. So you will output hello world. So without the main function, without invoking this function in your main function or calling this function in your main function, there will be no output. So let's try this. So this is how you call the greet function. So you have there the int main, then you invoke or call that function, which is you created void greet. So you can invoke that code, you can invoke greet function using its name, which is greet function. So another example of this is another example is a function parameter, so which is another kind of function. So you have there void print num, which is a parameter of int num, which is the function is expecting a value which is int value. So in your int main, you declare a variable n which has a value of 7. Then you have to pass the value of 7 or the n in the print num function, so which is print num parenthesis n close parenthesis. So that is how you pass a value from main function to the print num function. So let's try the program on how to print that int printNum function. So we'll rename this function, then so sharp include iStream, so using namespace std, main, so we'll create the function. So void printNum, so which is expecting to have a value of printNum, then okay, then we have to declare n is equals to 7, then here in your printNum you will output the number, cout num, then here you will invoke the function printNum. So printNum function, then the value of your passing, which is the n variable. So after passing this variable to this function, which is expected to have a int variable which is correct int, then the value of num variable here is 7. So we forgot to return 0. So we use return 0 because we use the int function here. So let's try to build and run. Okay, error. So we forget to use the end parenthesis semicolon. So we have the output 7. So another is if you have difficulty of understanding or you want to have a user input, so we will delete this. So we will just declare n variable, which you will storing value using the user input. So cout enter a number and l cin n. Okay, so let's try to build and run the program. So enter a number, so we have to enter 200. So you output 200. So to lessen the confusion, so you enter build and run. So 300, you enter 300. So that's all for today. So if you like this video, so please like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.